Time now to focus in on the world of space and defense with the newest IPO. Joining me now is Dylan Taylor, Chairman and CEO of Voyager Technologies. Okay, I can't help myself, Dylan. I always think to infinity and beyond whenever the space subject comes up. Congratulations on your IPO. This is so exciting. I've been covering the IPO space for a while, and then the past couple of years we've talked about seeing the green shoots and seeing more companies come to the public market. And then this was the year where we were expecting the IPO spring, and it started a little chilly for the spring, like it was outside, and it started to warm up more. So I think this is really exciting. You guys have priced this above the range. Just first tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling great. I mean, this is the pinnacle of any founder's ambition, at least certainly mine, is to create a public company platform where we can take it to the next level. So feeling great, feeling satisfied, but feeling like we're just getting started.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, this is exciting stuff. Before I get into the plans about how you plan to deploy capital, obviously investors want to know that. I asked you a question offline, and I know viewers want to know this. Have you been to space yourself?
I have. Yeah, I went in December of 2021 on Blue Origin on a suborbital flight, and that was the Michael Strahan flight, if you remember that one.
Yes, I do. That was exciting.
Yeah.
Were you nervous at all?
You know, I wasn't. You would think you would be, and I would have thought I would have been, but I think the training is actually really good. You simulate going through all the motions, and it was a lifelong dream for me. So, you know, living your dream, if that's the way you go, that's the way you go. And it was a life-changing moment for me.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I was always in the camp where I'm never doing that. I'm like, I want my feet firmly planted on the ground. Even though I don't mind flying, I don't have a fear of flying in a regular jet. But I've become more curious the more we have these conversations about space exploration, and now that the country really has been leaning into commercial space. So let's talk a little bit about your capital allocation plans. How are you planning to deploy capital from this IPO?
So there's a few growth vectors we have. We're very keen on anything related to smart missile defense technology. We're playing in that area. That's part of Golden Dome, as you know. So that's one area. We're also very focused on software and software-enabled hardware. More intelligence is being put on hardware and where the data is actually being collected, and putting compute at that source. So we're focused on that part of the market. We've been quite acquisitive with M&A. So we've made 7 acquisitions since our founding. I would anticipate making a few others. And then space infrastructure. As you mentioned, we're building a replacement to the International Space Station called Starlab. So it's likely we'll continue to invest in that area of the business as well.
Okay. How do you balance out the government versus commercial customer base?
So the government's obviously a really important customer, but as you're mentioning and you're embedded in your question, commercial is becoming a bigger and bigger part of the market. Keep in mind also when we say government, a lot of people say NASA, or they think NASA, but there's now, I believe, 85 space agencies around the world. So you have the Gulf nations, you have all the Eastern European nations that aren't part of the European Space Agency. You have Turkey, you have India, you have South America. So even when we say government, those customer bases are expanding. And then, of course, commercial customers, as we know, are raising capital, as you alluded to, and that's ultimately our customers as well, in addition to the governments.
Let me ask you a little bit about NASA. So obviously NASA, when you think of it in terms of how Americans think about it, has a special place in our heart. For one of my sisters, it was her, I think it was her first job, or it was her first real job. So I'm curious to know what your thinking is, or what you're preparing for in terms of any potential ripple effect from some of the budgetary pressure that's been on NASA when you think about the target DOGE has on various agencies.
Yeah, it's hard to know for sure. So in the president's skinny budget, there were quite a few cuts in there, a lot to science, notably our programs, which are the commercial LEO destination, the space station, that was well protected in that proposed budget. What we don't know is what's going to actually pass, right? So that was a proposed budget. I think we'll know who the NASA administrator nominee is going to be probably in the next month or so. And I think once we have those 2 data points, we'll have a better understanding of what the roadmap looks like. But I think commercial, you know, the message I would deliver is commercial space is here to augment these budget cuts and try to do things more efficiently and try to leverage technology and innovation, which is frankly what NASA needs to do and has been doing, but needs to do more of.
You can certainly see the need for commercial, especially even when you think about the budgetary pressure that's on government agencies, from NASA to the dozens that you mentioned as well. But when we think about commercial space exploration, what do you say to the viewer about the real world use case? Because some people think it's, pardon my phrase, but pie in the sky.
Yeah.
What do we need this for? Or you also have the extremists who say this world is going to end, so of course we've got to do this. What's your message to the average person?
Well, I would say if you use your cell phone, if you are interested in climate, if you're interested in hailing an Uber, those are all space-based assets, right? And so our economy really is driven by space-based assets. And when you think about the infrastructure layer yet to be built in low Earth orbit to commercialize microgravity research, breakthrough drugs like Keytruda, the cancer drug we developed on ISS. So there are a lot of opportunities to make life better here on Earth. And so, our tagline is the future belongs to those who build it. And there's an entire infrastructure layer in space that's going to make life here on Earth better. And that's the part of the market that we're playing in.
So the future belongs to those who build it. What does that mean in terms of you have to be a visionary with taking a company public, one, but the nature of the business that you're in, you have to be a visionary. I mean, you have to plan for the next 5 to 10 years. Of course, you want to celebrate this milestone today. But I have to ask the question, what is the vision for the next 5 to 10 years?
So 2 things. One is we want to make sure that we're building this infrastructure layer in space. So think of us as a space infrastructure company. This next generation space station will change the world, in my view, called Starlab. We have many global partners on that. So getting that in orbit in 2029 is the target. That's critical. The ISS is going to come down in 2030, so that's a key project. And then on the national security and defense side, having core technologies that are going to allow us to keep the Western value system intact and keep our adversaries at bay, because there are new threats emerging that, frankly, if we don't innovate and leverage technology, we're not going to have solutions to combat those threats.
And how do you also balance collaboration, though? You mentioned the threats, but often when we see space exploration, when we think about astronauts going to space, you have astronauts from the U.S., from elsewhere globally.
Right.
How do you balance that?
Well, I believe in it. I think the ISS should win a Nobel Prize for peace, because I think it's been one of the best things humans have done. It's part of the reason when we created our space station program, Starlab, we leveraged international partners. So there are several international partners involved in that project from Europe, Japan, and elsewhere. So that might have been a first print.
I think so. I think that is perfect timing. I think that bell, you hear an opening bell on Wall Street and a closing bell. There are a lot of times you hear another bell. It's the sound of a company making its public debut, its first trade. So that's Voyager Technology making its public debut. Any final thoughts you want to leave us with on that, Dylan?
I'm curious where the print was. Does anybody know?
Guys, I got to get my producer in my ear with where the print was. We'll get that in just a moment. Dylan, thank you so much. That's Dylan Taylor, Chairman and CEO of Voyager Technologies. A lot of subscription coming into this public debut of Voyager Technologies, and you just heard the opening of that trade.